Alrighty, so let's talk about all 12 of these games that happened in MLS Matchweek number 7. And I'm going to jump straight into it because I just got back from a restaurant and I was there to eat dinner, and it's now 8:09 p.m. and since I have to go to school at 6:30 tomorrow, I want to get this done as quick as possible, and I want to get this done before 10 p.m. So, having said that, let's talk about the first game, which was the Chicago Fire drawing 1-1 against the Whitecaps. And there was controversy in this game because it's a Whitecaps game. I mean, there's always going to be controversy whenever the Whitecaps are playing in a game. But all kidding aside, I do feel sorry and feel bad for the Whitecaps and their fans that they have to deal with controversy every single week, and most of these controversy have gone against them and have cost them a couple of points, and in this game it was no exception. But first of all, in the first half there was no score. In the second half, Jordi Reyna scores from what seems like was the worst goalkeeping howler we have seen this week, but it turns out that was not the case because, spoiler alert, there was even a worse goalkeeping howler in this Minnesota versus NYCFC game. But this was a pretty bad goalkeeping howler for David Ousted. And Ousted, I always kind of say that I wouldn't say he is a very good goalkeeper, but I wouldn't say he's terrible. I mean, he's kind of those average kind of goalkeeper where he has his moments, but also he has some bad moment and made some very boneheaded kind of goalkeeping mistake, and this was one of them because when the ball was coming into the box, he first misjudged the ball, and even if he misjudged the ball, there was nobody around him so that he can still just kind of like run off the ball, and I'm guessing he really want to like just kind of pick up the ball and at least corral the ball and then just kick it upfield, because even as the ball was getting close to trickle out of the 18-yard box, he basically dived in front of it and he was trying to prevent the ball from crossing the line when he touched it, because when the ball crossed across the 18-yard box and it's outside the 18-yard box, and if you're a goalkeeper that still touched the ball, yeah, that is going to be a free kick, and that probably will be a sending off for that goalkeeper because you can't touch the ball outside the 18-yard box if you are a goalkeeper. So Ousted tried his best to keep this one in, but instead he basically kind of fumbled it, and then it basically just gone right into Jordi Reyna, who basically scored probably the easiest goal that he will ever score in his life, just put it into the empty net. But the Fire did have a respawn in the 84th minute with Nikolic scoring the penalty, and this is where the controversy was this actually a penalty for the Chicago Fire? I believe it was Nikolic that basically shot this one toward the box, and I think it was Darnell Henry that was blocked this shot, and it looked like Darnell Henry kind of commit a handball as he blocked that shot. Like a lot of Chicago Fire players say that should have been a handball, but it wasn't called a handball until after the play they look at VAR, and this is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, problem with VAR, and I kind of mentioned this before, so I'm gonna quickly talk about it so that this video doesn't get too long. And that is, one of the biggest problems with VAR is that there doesn't seem like a distinct rule of what it's clear and obvious, and that it seemed like the league is just leaving up to the people that is in charge of VAR and leaving to the referee that is in charge of VAR as the way to determine what's clear and obvious. And I know a lot of Whitecaps fan was saying that not only it wasn't clear and obvious, it didn't even hit his hand. And when I watched the replay a couple of times, it was tough to see whether or not if that actually hit his hand or hit his chest, because if it hit his chest, then that's not a handball because it hit his chest. So when I look on that replay, it didn't look really clear and obvious. And keep in mind, originally when they called this was not a penalty. They didn't call this a penalty. So in order for them to overturn and say that it was a penalty, they need to be clear and obvious. And in my opinion, I don't think it was clear and obvious, but apparently the referee that was in charge of VAR think it was clear and obvious, and that's why it's been given a penalty. And it also just go back to what I said about how since there's no distinct rule of what's clear and obvious, and since it seemed like MLS is letting their referee to decide what's clear and obvious, that is a big issue because each referee has their own way to determine what's clear and obvious. And as long as that's how it is, then you're going to get a lot of inconsistent kind of VAR call. And that's why we've been having some good VAR call and some really terrible VAR call because of referee determine what exactly is clear and obvious. But yeah, Nikolic, as I said, he puts away the penalty, and that is the final score of this game. Now, the stats of this game showed that Chicago probably should have won this game. They had 23 shots compared to 9 that Vancouver has, 6 shots on goal compared to 2 that Vancouver has, 13 shots on target 13 shots off target compared to 6 that Vancouver had, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 1 had, and Chicago had 60% possession compared to 40% possession that Vancouver has. And although Chicago, for most part of this game, were the better team, I think Vancouver still done just enough to maybe get a win and get all 3 points in this. And keep in mind, Vancouver, there was, I think, right about the 70th minute, and I think it was RDS. He actually hit an absolute screamer that basically hits off the post. So that could have been easily 2-0 in favor of the Whitecaps. And, you know, like I said, I think the Whitecaps could definitely have done enough that they deserved to get all 3 points. But unfortunately, VAR once again was the reason why they didn't get all 3 points, and controversial call once again cost them all 3 points. And yeah, I there's really not much I can say to Whitecaps fan that makes them more happier about this. I mean, you know, it's just the way it is. It's like, unless if MLS finally figure out a way to put in a rule and just tells the referee what exactly is clear and obvious, and that they tell them that do not use your own interpretation of what's clear and obvious. Use our interpretation and what we said that is clear and obvious, then these kind of VAR situation will never change. But moving on, Montreal. So they got a 1-0 win against Columbus, and just as I thought, this was going to be a low-scoring game. You know, I knew that this was probably going to be a 0-0 or a 1-0 game because both of these teams don't score a lot of goals, but both of these teams has a very good defense. In fact, for the Impact, this is the 3rd straight shutout that they have this season, and the only goal in this game was Novello from Urruti. And, you know, Columbus, they had a lot of chances in this game, but unfortunately, they just could not put away those chances, which sounds very similar to what happened last season when Columbus also had this sort of issue. And, you know, the funny thing after this game is that Caleb Porter said that, you know, his team should have deserved more out of this game, which, you know, if you're a Timber fan, you know that is probably a classic phrase or a classic quote that Caleb Porter would always say after the game if his team lose. Like, he always would say that the team deserved better, even if he knows that his team doesn't do very well and that his team kind of got outplayed by the opponent. And, you know, when you look at the stats here, it's clearly shown that Montreal was the better team. They had 13 shots compared to 11 that Columbus had, 7 shots on goal compared to 5 that Columbus had, 4 shots off target compared to 5 that Columbus had, 2 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that Columbus had. And the only stat line that really kind of proved Caleb Porter's point about how his team deserved more is the possession-wise. They had 57% possession compared to 43% possession that Montreal has. But at the end of the day, as I say before in a classic kind of cliche in soccer, is that possession does not really determine the outcome of the game. And yeah, so get used to Caleb Porter just keep saying this. I mean, I know if some Columbus fan think that what in the world Caleb Porter is talking about, how do we deserve more even though we got outplayed in terms of the stats. Yeah, you should kind of ask a lot of Timbers fan of how they feel, because that's kind of what Caleb Porter's been doing in terms of his post-game interview. When he wins, he's happy. But when he loses, he always said that we deserve more. But, at the end of the day, for Montreal, it's a good win for them. But I think, one of the concern I have with this Impact team is that, yes, although they're flying under the radar, then it can definitely be a dark horse in the Eastern Conference. My biggest concern is that if they do not have Piatti, this team looks really this doesn't look like a very good team. And so far in these free game unbeaten, or in these free games where they got a shutout, they really rode their luck a couple of times in these games. Like, they could have easily gave up a goal, especially in this game where in the 73rd minute, Columbus looked like they got their equalizer but Lovitz basically kind of hit that one off the line, and what a great job for Daniel Lovitz to hit that one off the line, and it actually hits the post, and then it hit off the line, and then they of course look at VAR to just double check to make sure that the ball didn't cross over the line, which they said it didn't. So yeah, I mean, Montreal at times they did roll their luck a couple of times in the defensive end, and it feels like right now this is kind of like, I feel like both of these teams are kind of very similar to each other, where both of these teams don't really have a lot of attacking threat, but they do have a very good defense. But at the same time, they're kind of riding on their luck. And Columbus have shown that they could be be a very decent team by doing that. But I just think for Montreal, if they want to be a team that will consider like contenders, they really need another number 10, and they really need to find a replacement for Piatti. I mean, I said it in the preseason where this is the last year they will have Piatti. He even said it in the preseason that this is the last year he'll be at Montreal. So the clock is definitely ticking for them to find a replacement and find a number 9, or not number 9, but a number 10 that can replace where Piatti is playing. But next up, the Quakes. So they lost 2-1 against Houston, which shouldn't surprise anybody because, as I said in the preview, the Quakes, they do not have a good record against Houston, especially when this game is played at BBVA Compass Stadium. I don't even remember the last time the Quakes were able to go to BBVA Compass Stadium and get a result or even get a point out of this game. Now, to be fair, I will say this about the Quakes in this game. They did exactly what I was hoping they would do in terms of if they lose a game to a better opponent. I said before how I know the Quakes are going to lose a lot of games, and I know there's going to be a lot of good quality kind of opponent that they'll be facing, and Houston, of course, is going to be one of them. Consider how good they've been starting this season. But all I ask about the Quakes whenever they lose a game, and they lose because they kind of got outclassed, is that at least they show some sort of fight, and at least they showed some sort of resilience, and just kind of hang in there and give themselves a chance to potentially get a result. And in this game, they did exactly that. In the first half, there was actually no score in this game, but there could have been easily a score in this game if Houston didn't miss a penalty from Mauro Manotas. That's the second straight week that the Quakes have given up a penalty, and they didn't concede a goal, and that the opponent basically missed the penalty, which that usually does not happen. Usually when we concede a penalty, usually the opponent will basically bury that one. But that's the second week in a row that our opponent missed penalty, so we're starting to roll our luck a little bit in terms of those penalty kick situation. And speaking of riding our luck, man, we rode our luck a lot in this game with the fact that Houston actually hit the post twice in this game. But to be fair, we also hit the post in the first half, and it was Espinoza that hits an absolute thundering shot from outside the box that rattles the post. And you could argue that maybe we should have been 1-0 up, or we should have been tied at 1-1 if Manotas converts that penalty in the first half. And instead, we did head to halftime 0-0, and then we had a very long rain delay, and then heading into the second half, that is when the quality of Houston start to show. Elise scores from, guess who? Mauro Manotas. So you know what that means. The Elise and Manotas connection is back, baby. And usually I'm very happy when I see that kind of connection because it's my favorite connection in the league. But when it's against our own team, yeah, that doesn't feel very, very good, does it? But what will make me feel very good and make me very happy is seeing Jackson Yueill score his first ever goal from Salinas 4 minutes after Elise gets a goal. And I'll tell you what, when Jackson Yueill scored this goal, I actually jumped up like the Quakes just won an MLS Cup. Like, I celebrate very hard in this goal because, you know, besides Wando, Jackson Yueill is probably my favorite player in this Quakes team. And I always say that this kid, he is going to have some very good potential and he is going to be our future in terms of that holding midfield position. And in this game, it's shown that when we had Jackson Yueill, that midfield looks much more steady than when we did not have Jackson Yueill. Once he came off, that midfield basically reverted to the midfield that we've been having all season, which was very dysfunctional. But see him score a goal, and see him score a beautiful goal that he basically just struck it from outside the 18-yard box. Yeah, that just puts a huge smile to my face. And not only the fact that he scored that goal, you know, this is really, well, the rare time that the Quakes actually showed some resilience in a game where, you know, usually when they're on the road, when they go down 1-0, I know the game is over for them because it's like they probably will not get an equalizer and they'll probably just capitulate it. But they didn't do it in this game. They show some resilience. They had a response that they can score one back, and that is exactly what happened in the 56th minute. Now, unfortunately, 4 minutes later, they went behind once again, and this time it was Thomas Martinez who he scored his own wonder kind of goal from Manotas to make it 2-1 Houston. And then, of course, Houston continued to push us forward, and Elise he absolutely caused havoc in terms of our defense, which, you know, I don't think there's any shame of that because Elise, this is what he's been doing throughout the season. He has caused havoc to every single team that Houston has faced right now. So, you know, I could be a little bit forgiving if the Quakes did not do a good job containing Elise because every team has had trouble doing that. And then in the 87th minute, Lopez, of course, got sent off after a very nasty challenge. And really, that pretty much ends my hope that we can get anything out of this game. And I might feel a little bit guilty of saying this, but I'm actually kind of glad that Lopez got sent off in this. Because with Lopez getting sent off and he getting suspended in the next game, that means that Almeida have to play Lima in the next game. And this is the only thing that I really want Almeida to do, which is just put Lima back in the starting 11. I understand Lima's had his struggle so far this season, and I guess that's probably led to where Almeida decided to bench him. But look at what happened in the last game where he made an instant impact, and you know he scored a goal that unfortunately was called back, but that he made an instant impact to our team. So why in the world is he not starting with us? And he was arguably one of our best player from last season, and he is always going to be the guy that's going to give 110% to this team. He's not a guy that's just going to be slacking off and not put in the work rate. He is definitely that kind of guy. So I don't understand why he's always sitting on the bench, and it seemed like right now Almeida just wants kind of like Tommy Thompson and Nick Lima shares that right back spot, which makes no sense because Tommy Thompson is not even a right back, and I don't understand why he's keep playing in that fullback position. Like, you know, I know in the last game when Tommy Thompson played in that fullback position, he looked very decent, but that was against a very bad Timbers team. And look what happened when Tommy Thompson has to face a much better team. He just get absolutely burned. So I'm really hoping in the next game, first of all, Almeida, he's got to put Lima back in the starting 11 because he have no choice with Lopez unavailable. And then second of all, just put Tommy Thompson in the spot that Eriksson is in. I mean, it just makes perfect sense with Tommy Thompson back to his natural position, a position that he does very well, and replace a guy, Magnus Eriksson, that, he has definitely not had a good year, which we kind of expected because we knew that he was god awful. I mean, that would make perfect sense. That would be the perfect starting 11. So hopefully that will be the case in the future. And in terms of the shots in this game, there was actually a lot of shots in this game. Houston had 18 shots compared to 15 that the Quakes had. 6 shots on goal compared to 5 that the Quakes had. 8 shots off target compared to 6 that the Quakes had. 4 shots that was blocked compared to the 4 that the Quakes had. And the Quakes actually had 60% possession compared to 40% possession. So this is one of the few times the Quakes actually have more possession than their opponent on the road. It's usually the Quakes never have a lot of possession on the road. So yeah, for the Quakes, it was a good effort, but it wasn't meant to be. And for Houston, it's a good win, but yeah, you might have a little bit regret that those chances that you had, and the fact that it they shouldn't have to just kind of sweat it out at the end and kind of had to rely on a red card to really feel comfortable that they got all 3 points out of the game. But next up, as I'm going to turn off the lights because the glare is kind of blocking this left side, is the marquee game of the week. And I'll tell you what, the game of the week definitely did not disappoint at all. And in fact, it definitely lived up to the hype. As the Sounders and TFC battle each other, and at the end of the day, it was a 5-goal thriller that led the Sounders with a 3-2 win over TFC. And in the first half, Altidore scores from guess who? It's Pozuelo, and something tells me that these two guys is going to be making themselves on the board very often in this game. And, talk about the Elise and Manotas kind of connection, and also the now discontinued Almiron and Joseph Martinez kind of connection. This connection between Altidore and Pozuelo could be one of the best, if not the best, connection in the league. Like, both of these guys, even though it's only 3 games in the season, both of these guys already seem like they have a lot of chemistry to each other, and both of these guys love to kind of connect to each other to create good chances. And something tells me if this continues, Pozuelo, he's going to be the assist king by the end of the year, and Altidore is definitely going to be fighting for that golden boot race at the end of the year. It is just incredible of how effective Pozuelo has been coming into this league. And I know it's just a small sample size, but if he can continue this form, he can definitely be not only getting the newcomer of the year, but also may get the MVP award in MLS this season. But Seattle did equalize in the 24th minute from Will Bruin unassisted. And then in the second half, it's Will Bruin again from Smith and Ladero to make it 2-1 Seattle. Then Rodon scored from Leardan and Swinson to make it 3-1 Seattle. But TFC did not lay down and just give up the fact, even though they were down 3-1. And in the 70th minute, Altidore scores from guess who? Pozuelo and Simon to make it 3-2. And TFC really gave it their all in terms of trying to get the equalizer. Seattle was just kind of hanging by a thread, and Stephen Fry made a couple of very decent saves. Pozuelo actually had an absolute crawler that I have no clue how in the world did Stephen Fry able to keep that out. And then Simon hit an absolute thunder of a shot that clings off the post. So yeah, TFC very unfortunate to not get a third goal and get a point out of this game. Now, when we look at the shots in this game and the stats of this game, there wasn't as much shots as what this game would implement as a very exciting game. And overall, it was a very exciting game. There was a lot of action that was going on. Seattle only have 12 shots compared to 9 that TFC had. 5 shots on goal compared to 4 that TFC had. 5 shots off target compared to 4 that TFC had. 2 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that TFC had. And Seattle has 44% possession compared to 56% possession that TFC had. And like I said, these numbers seems very low. Consider the fact that, like, if you only look at the stats, you would think that this wasn't really that exciting of a game. It was just both teams being very clinical. That wasn't the case. It was just both teams were actually putting a lot of. They were really kind of going for it on the attack, and a couple of times things did kind of break down. But at the same time, both of these teams really looked like they could be a team that could be competing in the playoffs. And who knows? Maybe this could be another preview of an MLS Cup, and it might be another Seattle versus TFC kind of MLS Cup. I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't want that because they already seen it twice in the last couple of years. But the way that both of these teams play, don't be surprised that both of these teams play at the end of the year could potentially be meeting each other for a title game. And I think for TFC in this game, TFC fans will be disappointed they didn't get all 3 points, and they would think that they would deserve more in this game. But at the same time, the problem for TFC in this game was clearly the defense. Yeah, this defense in this game kind of revert back to CCL form, where they were just kind of like ball watching, especially the last 2 goals and the third goal. It was just TFC just kind of, their defense just kind of like just stop and just kind of like watch Seattle just kind of pass around their defense and just cut open their defense like nothing. And it was just it brings back I think if TFC fans saw that, it probably brings back memories or brings back bad moment of that Independiente and TFC kind of two-legged affair where they just got absolutely cut open in the defensive end. But next up, speaking of exciting game, this was also an exciting game. The first ever game at Allianz Field ends up to be a 6-goal thriller, and there was a ton of goals in the first 30 minutes. In the first half, 13 minutes into this game, Ozzy Alonso scored the first ever goal at Allianz Field with an absolute stunning kind of volley that is going to be nominated as one of the goal of the week and probably would win the goal of the week because of the occasion it was. But then Castellano ties the game from Tajiri Shradi and Tinnerholm to make it 1-1 in this game. And then Tajiri Shradi himself scores unassisted to give NYCFC the lead. But Minnesota, they didn't really lie down, and instead they quickly responds to NYCFC going up front with Angelino Rodriguez from Finley and Gregus. And to be fair, Sean Johnson, yeah, this was, for Sean Johnson, overall this game is a game that he would definitely likely to forget because of the way that he performed. But he probably should have clearly intercept or at least catch that cross from Ethan Finley. I mean, it looked like he just kind of caught flat-footed when that cross was coming in and he couldn't quite get it. But yeah, that wasn't really good goalkeeping from him. But it wasn't even as bad as what happened next, because in the 32nd minute, could we say that this could go down? This is going to be ranked as one of the worst goalkeeping howler we have ever seen in MLS. I mean, it was basically a simple back pass to Sean Johnson, and the only thing that I can think why he caused that goalkeeping howler was that he just got caught in two minds. Like, usually when you see players, they do a back pass toward their goalkeeper, usually their goalkeeper, depending on if they're under pressure, if they're under pressure, then they'll just clear it away. If they're not, they probably may take an extra touch. And I think in this situation, Johnson was kind of caught in two minds, thinking, should I just clear that one away or should I take a touch? And there was just nobody around him. So he tried to take a touch, but instead that ball went right through his leg as he was trying to take a touch. And just like that, it was 3-2 Minnesota. I mean, that was just such a shocking goalkeeping howler. And I think later on the night when they showed that goal, there was a lot of people that was just absolutely stunned. Like, even the fans at the stadium, they were absolutely stunned of what they just saw. Like, they have never seen that happen, where a goalkeeper basically just completely misjudged the ball. And I know this season we have seen a lot of bad goalkeeping howler. We saw the Osted kind of goalkeeping howler, and then 2 weeks ago we saw Daniel Vega with a goalkeeping howler of him not able to when the ball was coming in, he basically took a swing and a miss at the ball as he trying to clear it away. But this goalkeeping howler from Sean Johnson, I think that is got to be right up. That's got to be the worst out of the previous two, and right up there as the worst goalkeeping howler we have ever seen in league history. Now, the fortunate thing for Sean Johnson is that his teammate did give him did able to get back on terms when Tajuri Shradi, of course, scored his second goal to make it 3-3 in this game. And NYCFC, they thought that they equalized about 8 minutes earlier to this Tajuri Shradi goal, with Castellano thought that he scored his second, but unfortunately, as he was going through on goal, he accidentally handballed it as he was going through on goal, and that's why that goal didn't count. And that was a good example of using VAR and overturn a call that was clear and obvious. And yeah, overall, this game ends in a 3-3 draw, and I don't think, despite how exciting this game was, I don't think both managers will be very happy about this result. I mean, for NYCFC, yeah, they just shot themselves in the foot with these kind of bad mistake, these bad defensive mistake, and also bad goalkeeping error. I mean, if Sean Johnson did not make that goalkeeping error in the 32nd minute, NYCFC would have won this game. And as for Minnesota, they would be disappointed at the fact that they didn't get all 3 points. Consider, you would think the occasion and the excitement of opening Allianz Field would really boost their confidence of getting a win, but that was not the case. Instead, they only got a point out of this. And Minnesota last year, knowing that they're one of those teams that is heavily rely on getting most of their points at home so that they can make it to the playoffs. Dropping points at home in your first game will definitely not help the cause. But in terms of the shots in this game, Minnesota had 12 shots compared to 16 that NYCFC had. As I'm actually going to turn back the lights here. Minnesota had 3 shots on goal compared to 6 that NYCFC had. 4 shots off target compared to 5 that NYCFC had. Both teams had 5 shots that was blocked, and NYCFC had 66% possession compared to 34% possession that Minnesota has. But like I said, both teams will not be happy with this result because both teams want 3 points in this game. But yeah, moving on to the final game on this board before I switch the board. Atlanta, they finally broke the duck, and for Frank de Boer, for the first time since he was managing Inter Milan, he was able to get his first ever league win as a manager, as he and his Atlanta team beat New England 2-0 in this game. And to be fair, even though it was only 2-0 for Atlanta, it could have been a lot more. Like, Atlanta, I don't know how in the world did they not at least score 4 or 5 goals in this game. They had so many missed chances in this game, but yet at the same time, the way that Atlanta played in this game kind of looked very similar to the Atlanta team that won MLS Cup last year. In the first half, Ezekiel Barco scores from Villalba to make it 1-0. In the second half, it's the same thing. Ezekiel Barco scored from Villalba to make it 2-0. And, talk about those missed chances. Joseph Martinez had a couple of opportunities of his own. I think in the first half he basically went around the goalkeeper, and usually when you see him went around the goalkeeper, yeah, he's gonna basically tap it into the empty net, but instead he didn't do that. And then in the second half, he had a one-on-one opportunity where he just hit it straight to the goalkeeper. And I think Joseph Martinez right now, he has only have 1 goal so far this season, and something tells me that, yeah, it looked like, last season Joseph Martinez won MVP and he broke the goal scoring record, which was amazing. But at the same time, it feels like now with him struggling to score goals, something tells me he got that goal scoring record and that MVP award mainly because Almiron was basically providing his service. And when Martinez gets service, when Joseph Martinez gets service and gets into a good area, then yeah, of course he's going to put the ball into the back of the net. But when he's not getting service like he has been throughout the season, you basically are starting to see the struggle. And also, because of him not able to score a bunch of goals, his confidence level is probably taking a big hit right now. And I think that's the reason why he's been missing a couple of these shots. His confidence level is probably at an all-time low right now, consider he's only scored 1 goal so far this season. And I know a lot of people won't think that strikers, when they score goals, there's this psychological kind of thing where if they can score goals, they can bang in a couple more, and it just seemed like that is the case with Joseph Martinez right now, is that if he is able to start scoring goals, then yeah, he's going to score a bunch of them, but when he's not scoring goal, this is exactly what can happen. But in terms of the shots in this game, Atlanta had 19 shots compared to 7 that New England has, 8 shots on goal compared to 1 that New England has, 5 shots on target, or 5 shots off target compared to 4 that New England has, 6 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that New England has, and Atlanta has 47% possession compared to 53% possession that New England has. So, New England finally getting their first win, and I'm not going to say that they are really back because, one, yes, even though they performed, this was probably the best that they performed, and this looked like the old Atlanta, it was against New England. And New England right now, they are in deep trouble. Like, this team looked like is destined to finish probably near the bottom or even in the basement of the Eastern Conference. So, yeah, if Atlanta can continue to do this, and if they can pick up more points, then I would believe that Atlanta is really back and that they are ready to compete again. But as of now, if this is a game where they win and then the next game they don't do very well, then there's still going to be concern about this team, because this is a team that should be competing for MLS Cup, not spending their time in the bottom of the Eastern Conference. But that being said, let us now change boards and talk about the other 6 games that happened in this MLS Matchweek. But yeah, next up, Dallas. So they won 2-1 against the Portland Timbers, but I do have some concern for FC Dallas because, once again, they look like they were about to blow a lead and about to drop points despite getting off to an early lead. And there was definitely some controversy in this game, especially at the end of the game where it looked like the Timbers should have got a penalty that was not given. And unfortunately, since I didn't watch this game and I only watched the highlights didn't show that controversial moment. So yeah, I have no clue what actually happened in that incident, and until when they do the instant replay on the MLS channel, when they go through all those controversial calls, that I can see this controversial moment. Yeah, I don't like. I can't really just say that the Timbers deserve a penalty when I didn't really see it. Although majority of people said that it should have been a penalty, so I guess I'll take word that probably the Timbers kind of got robbed in this game of not getting a penalty late in the game. But for Dallas, they got off to an early lead with Jesus Ferreira score his 3rd goal of the season. Now, originally this goal was not given, but when they go and look at VAR, they saw that Jesus Ferreira was in an offside position, but Diego Chara actually played the ball. And this actually happened twice this season, where when a defenders decide to play the ball, even if the ball goes to an attacker that is in an offside position, that attacker is no longer offside. And that is exactly what happened in this situation, where Chara plays the ball, it ricocheted right to Jesus Ferreira, who went through on goal. And despite the fact that he's in an offside position, because of the rule, he's no longer in an offside position. So good call by the ref in terms of implementing this rule and look at it at VAR. And Dallas, of course, took a 1-0 lead. Then they doubled their lead in the hour mark when Ziegler puts away a penalty. But the Timbers, they did fought back 7 minutes later with Paredes scoring from Blanco and Chara. And then that's when, of course, I would have got into talking about what happened near the end of the game where there was a penalty that probably should have been given. But like I said, since I didn't see it and I searched everywhere to see that controversial call and I couldn't find it, that's why, unfortunately, I can't really talk about it as of now. I might mention it again in the news of the week, but let me know in the comments below, what do you think of what happened right at the end of the game. But in terms of the shots in this game, both teams had 13 shots on goal. 5 shots on goal compared to 6 that Portland has. 6 shots off target compared to 3 that Portland has. 2 shots that was blocked compared to 4 that Portland has. Dallas had 57% possession compared to 43% possession that Portland has. So, FC Dallas, of course, getting the win here. But like I said, they almost blew a lead in this game, and they did kind of get a little bit help from the referee. And for the Timbers, like I said, they'll be very disappointed about this loss. This is now, I think, 5 straight loss or 6 straight loss for them. But as I also said, depending on what happened at the end of the incident, I think that they have a right to be upset the fact that they should have got a point out of this game because of that controversial call. But next up, and by the same scoreline as the FC Dallas versus Portland game, RSL beat Orlando City 2-1, and RSL really needed this win. Like, this was an absolute must-win for RSL, consider how bad things have gone for them, and they got the win that they desperately needed. Sam Johnson scored his first ever goal for RSL in the 17th minute. Then Krylak scores from Savarino and Herrera to make it 2-0 in favor of RSL. Nani did get one back for Orlando City, but that is as close as Orlando City would get. And in terms of the shots in this game, RSL had 10 shots compared to 13 that Orlando City has. 5 shots apiece in terms of shots on goal. 4 shots off target compared to 3 that RSL had. 2 shots that was blocked compared to 4 that Orlando City has. And Orlando City had 55% possession compared to 45% possession. And one thing I don't get what Orlando City did in this game, one thing I definitely don't understand what James O'Connor was doing in this game, is that why in the world did he decide not to put Nani sooner? Like, I know Nani eventually did score a goal, but he came off the bench to score a goal. So why exactly did you decide not to start him and instead of putting Dwyer in? I mean, there's nothing wrong with putting Dwyer in because he's a goal scorer, but you should have at least put Dwyer and Nani in. And this is the guy that this is the big signing that you bought throughout the offseason, and you're basically putting him on the bench? Yeah, it's no wonder why when I make that video talk about coaches that could potentially get fired by the end of the year. Yeah, with this loss, maybe James O'Connor just move up the list in terms of coaches that most likely would get fired. Although, for Orlando City, overall, they didn't really play that well in this game, and I guess these last 2 games that they play was just because, 1, they were playing a very bad team that is Colorado, and 2, they kind of got lucky against the Redbulls that were not really in full strength. And yeah, and also it's a road game too, so Orlando City, they usually don't win on the road, so there's that. But yeah, as I said before, for RSL, this is a very big win for them because things were looking very bleak heading into the beginning of the season, and they desperately needed a win. But next up, a team that also desperately needed a win, but unfortunately couldn't get it done, is Colorado, who lost 3-2 to DC. And I'll tell you what, DC, just like what I said about Dallas, there's got to be some concern with DC in terms of trying to hold leads on the road, because once again, they almost blew it on the road. In the last game against Orlando City, where they were able to score 2 goals in quick succession, they almost gave it away late in the game with Orlando City able to score 1, and then Orlando City was putting all sorts of pressure against them, and they almost concede again. And in this game, it was kind of almost the same case, but Colorado actually got on the board first from Failhaber and Smith and Price to make it 1-0 for the Rapids. But then Acosta scores from Pines and Bourbon to make it 1-1. Then Durkin scores from Rodriguez to make it 2-1 in favor of DC United. And then the floodgates started to open. Well, the floodgates was already open when Acosta scores from Pines and Bourbon, and Rodriguez himself scoring a goal to make it 3-1 in favor of DC. But Colorado did make it interesting in the second half with Kamara again. He just cannot stop scoring a goal right now, Kai Kamara, from Feilhaber and Mosqueda. But DC again able to hang on at the end of the game. And, you know, again, for the Rapids, this is it's another very tough resort to swallow. And again, the defense in this game for them was just god awful. And it just seemed like right now this season, one thing that I like about Colorado this season, and one thing that they definitely have improved is definitely their attack, but their defense, holy smoke, it is still looking very similar. And as long as if this defense continue to play like this, yeah, something tells me Colorado will be back into the basement, and that is the last thing what Rapids fan want to come out of this season, because they made a lot of big moves this season, and people think that they would definitely make the playoffs, and now all of a sudden it looked like they're probably going to finish in the basement too. Shots in this game, Colorado had 20 shots compared to 9 that DC has, 6 shots on goal compared to 4 that DC had, 8 shots off target compared to 2 that DC had, 6 shots that was blocked compared to 3 that DC had, and Colorado had 55% possession compared to 45% that DC had. So, again, Colorado pretty much dominate throughout the game, but, you know, it's the defense that is the reason that kind of let them down in this game. And for DC, you know, yes, you got another win on the road, but these road games that DC are playing are kind of a little bit iffy. Like, it doesn't seem very comfortable for them, and, you know, with them only having like they for these last couple of games, DC has definitely not looked like the DC that they were for the first couple of weeks, where they were just absolutely lights out. But still, they are still getting the points, and as long as they can continue to do this on the road and continue to pick up some more points at Audi Field, this team definitely have no doubt that it's going to be making the playoffs. Although, again, I'm still very skeptical of saying DC it could definitely compete in the playoffs, considering, like what I said last week about Rootney, of how when they do not have Rootney, and they did have Rootney in this game, he didn't really play a big part of this game, but, you know, with him there, and with him being like the leader of the team and pulling the string on the attack, you know, losing him, you can already see how bad things can get for DC if they do not have Rootney and the guy that is anchoring that attack for them. So, yeah, that's the only thing that I have concern with. That's the only thing that I kind of, well, not really concerned, but I'm a little bit skeptical about this team. And like I said, with Colorado, yeah, this is going to be a long year, isn't it? You know, all this talk about things that have improved doesn't seem like it's improved at all, isn't it? Yeah, next up, the Galaxy. Well, they just cannot stop winning right now. And for Zlatan, he cannot stop scoring too, because he got another 2 goals in this game against the Union. First, it was in the 27th minute from Skivik and Alessandrini. And then he puts away a penalty in the 36 minutes to make it 2-0 in favor of the Galaxy. And that is all that the Galaxy would have, and would have enough to get a victory against the Union. Austin Trusty, of course, did get sent off in the second half. And yeah, Zlatan, he is just, like, I also read an article talk about how Zlatan, the rate that he is scoring goals is now faster than what Joseph Martinez is scoring. So something tells me that, you know how early in the season when Zlatan said that he's going to break all the record, and I know that probably will not happen, because if you want to break all the records, yeah, he can't break all the record for the most save that a goalkeeper has, because he's not a goalkeeper. But if there is one record that he could potentially break, and if he continued this kind of goal scoring pace, then he can definitely beat Joseph Martinez's 30-goal season that he had in the previous season, and at least that shows that Zlatan has really become kind of the king of MLS. In terms of the shots in this game, both teams had 11 shots in this game. The Galaxy had 5 shots on goal compared to 2 that the Union had. 1 shots off target compared to 6 that the Union has. 5 shots that was blocked compared to the Union 3. And the Galaxy had 58% possession compared to 42% possession in this game. And, the Union, after a couple of good wins in the last couple of games, this game they just simply didn't show up in this game, and they're gonna have to try to move on from this and try to get back on a winning form. And as for LA, this team is definitely gonna be I cannot wait until the Galaxy play against LAFC in that El Tráfico, because these two teams right now are two of the best team in the Western Conference, and when both of these teams face each other, it's going to be a very spicy El Tráfico. And speaking of LAFC, they also won in this match week, and also won by the same score of 2-0 against FC Cincinnati. And FC Cincinnati coming into this game, as I kind of mentioned, how they need to kind of try to do what they always do, which is just trying to bunker down and trying to maybe somehow hit on the counter attack to score the goals that they need to maybe get a point or even all 3 points in this game. Well, they did kind of bunker down in this game and kind of make LAFC hard to try to break them down, but unfortunately they couldn't quite kept them off the scoreboard, and they didn't really got on the scoreboard too. Marc-Anthony Kaye scores from Vela, so Carlos Vela continues his hot streak. And speaking of Vela, he also scored again from Atuesta before the end of the game, and that's now 8 goals and 5 assists for Carlos Vela. I mean, there's going to be a real battle between Vela and Zlatan for that Golden Boot race if this, of course, continues between both of these, and maybe even Altidore too for that Golden Boot race. I wonder who exactly is gonna actually get there first, and we might see all 3 of these guys not only getting 20 plus goals, but maybe 25 plus goal if they can just continue the goal scoring pace that they are going right now. I think Zlatan right now he has 6 goals and Vela has 8, so Zlatan is kind of catching Vela in terms of that Golden Boot race, although I'm pretty sure Vela, I don't think he minds of he's a guy that can score goals and also can assist. So, and Zlatan is kind of the guy that mainly just score goals for his team. So something tells me maybe if Zlatan and Carlos Vela has a Golden Boot race, most likely Zlatan would win it, because he is kind of that natural kind of finisher, whereas Vela is kind of like an all-around kind of player in terms of not only be a creative player, but also put the ball into the back of the net. The shots in this game clearly shows that LAFC completely dominated this game. 22 shots compared to 7 that FC Cincinnati has. 7 shots on goal compared to 2 that FC Cincinnati has. 11 shots off target compared to 5 that FC Cincinnati has. 4 shots that was blocked compared to 6 that, or actually not 6, none that FC Cincinnati has, and LAFC had 56% possession compared to 43% that FC Cincinnati has. So LAFC continue their hot streak and continue to show why they are the best team in the league. And like I said, I cannot wait until El Tráfico when both of these teams are facing each other. That is going to be a heck of a game. But lastly, is the game that happened today is between Sporting KC and the Redbulls, which both of these teams drew 2-2. But before I get into this game, I have to talk about the Kaku situation. And honestly, this situation with Kaku getting sent off made me the action that he did to get himself sent off made me absolutely angry, and it makes me absolutely want to create a rant. And I'm not even a Red Bulls or even a Sporting KC fan. I mean, there are times where I see players get angry because of bad calls, and I've seen players get angry either to like kick the ball into the crowd or just decided to go absolutely berated at the referee and eventually gets a yellow card. But what Kaku did in this was just so out of line that not only he's going to be suspended for the next game, I would not be surprised if Disco is gonna suspend him for more than 5 or 6 games, because he basically decided to not only kick the ball into the crowd, but literally kick the ball straight into the first row with absolute force. And when I look on the replay, it looked like I think it struck one of the fan in the first row, or it might actually struck one of the ball boy in the first row. But the fact that it's absolutely ridiculous. The fact that when you see fans get injured in the game, usually, like if fans gets injured in a soccer game, usually it's because that if the ball is accidentally hit it toward them, and that's, you can be a little bit more forgiving. But if a fans get injured because a player like Kaku just idiotically decided that he was absolutely pissed and he's gonna take it out to just trying to kick the ball as hard as he could to basically kick it toward the Sporting KC fans, yeah, that is absolutely out of line. And I think Kaku, he's got to not only own apology to his team of the action that he did, but he also have to apologize to the Sporting KC fan base and also to the fan that he struck, because that is just completely out of line of what it is. Like, imagine a spectator decide to watch the game, and next thing you know, one of the players that got absolutely angry with a call, and he decided to take it on a fan. Like that is something that I should never see happen for. And knowing now Kaku, of how his reputation has been in the last couple of weeks and throughout this offseason, talk about the saga that Kaku is getting. Yeah, Kaku is going to get absolutely drilled by social media, and also he's going to get absolutely drilled by Disco by this. Like, if there is not even more than 4-game suspension for Kaku, I will be very shocked, because that was completely out of line. But now talking about this game, so in this game, Sporting KC and the Red Bulls, they drew 2-2 in this game, and it's clear that Sporting KC was tired after the 60th minute. Like, Sporting KC actually got off to a good start from Russell, so scoring a goal from Namath and Zuzi to make it 1-0. And early on, Sporting KC were missing chances, but in the second half, fatigue really kind of start ticking in place with this team. And I guess the fatigue has a lot to do with what happened in that midweek game against Rayados, which I didn't do a review of that second leg game because, as I mentioned, it was already over. What's the point of me doing another review on that? And Sporting KC got absolutely destroyed 5-2 in that game. So yeah, I didn't even want to feel like doing a review on that game. But the fact that when I look at the starting 11 and saw that it was almost the same starting 11 as this game, that makes me, I am absolutely shocked that is the case. Like, why in the world did Peter Vermees decided to put the same starting 11, the starting 11 that is already tired and absolutely kind of feeling down of what happened in that game against Rayados and getting absolutely destroyed, and think that it would be a great idea to put in the same squad and face against a Red Bull team that are desperate to try to get a win. So that is also one of the reasons why I think Sporting KC did not get 3 points in this game, and they kind of got really lucky that they got a point out of this game. But going back to this game, the Red Bulls, they got the equalizer from Royer and Cassia Jr. and BWP. And this was actually kind of against the run of play, because the Red Bulls, they didn't really play very well in the first half. And up to that point, they didn't really create a lot of chance. But, once Royer scores that goal, that's when the Red Bulls start to take over. And then eventually they got that second goal with Brian White scoring from Kaku and Long to make it 2-1. And you would thought that, okay, it looks like the Red Bulls are just going to hang on to this because Sporting KC are kind of like out of gas and they kind of are out of ideas. But nope. Instead, Sporting KC kind of hang in there. And for the second week in a row, or actually I should say for the third week in a row, Gianluca Busio, the 16-year-old wonder kid, has once again scored a goal to rescue Sporting KC at least a point in this. I mean, you know, if you're going to rely on a 16-year-old to rescue you a point in a game, that's usually probably not a good recipe to have a good season. But because it's Sporting KC and the fact that they had CCL, I can kind of forgive on that. But man, Busio, he is just absolutely on fire right now. And something tells me he's kind of giving me Alphonso Davies kind of flashback of how Alphonso Davies was absolutely lighting it up for Vancouver when he was a 16-year-old. And the good thing about Gianluca Busio is that he's an American too. So if he can continue to put in the work rate and continue to be as good as what he is right now, he could definitely be a future U.S. men's national team kind of player. But again, at the end of the game, it was 2-2 in this one. And in terms of the shots in this game, Sporting KC had 20 shots compared to 10 that the Red Bulls had. Both teams had 6 shots on goal. Sporting KC had 7 shots off target compared to 1 that the Red Bulls had. 7 shots that was blocked compared to 3 that the Red Bulls had. And Sporting KC had 61% possession compared to 39% that they have. But at the end of the day, they still only gonna have to settle with a draw in this game. And it's clear that, as I mentioned, Peter Vermees, if he didn't put the same starting 11 in that game, or just put the strongest team in that game against Rayados, they wouldn't have to worry to kind of be out of gas at the end of the game and really just rely on a 16-year-old to rescue them to get a point in this game. But either way, guys, that is pretty much it for all the MLS Match Week number 7 review. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys leave a like and smash that subscribe button. And let me know in the comments below which resorts surprised you, which games you think should have gone the other way. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.